All right, I think I did all the technical stuff correctly. I do hear myself in the background. That might be coming through Layman's computer. But nope, it
No,
stopped.
you're muted on my end.
Oh, okay. Well, welcome everyone. We are here, ready to go. We were just talking actually about another live stream that's coming up on Layman's channel. After that's going to be in a few hours from now.
Yeah, so it'll be midnight for Tony. I don't know if Tony will be up, but I'm just saying because he's UK as well. It'll be midnight our time. So yeah.
But a good time for those who might be on the West Coast in the U.S.
Mhm.
because they'll be, I guess it'll be evening for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. And fortunately, Layman never sleeps, so he can do this sort of. He can have. I'm going to be so tired, and you're going to just keep going. I can't believe it.
Well, the only downside to me recently is months ago I had my wisdom tooth come in here. I now have one coming in on this side. So the face is red on this side, and it's like literally numb from like here down. Like I don't feel anything.
The wisdom tooth is like causing a nerve to
It's literally.
be
I'm
pinched or
hoping it's
something.
going to grow in a little bit straighter, but so far it seems to be pushing in against another tooth. So it may, and I hope it doesn't, but it may require an extraction. So we'll see.
Oh,
It's only at the
oh.
early stages right now. It's only started cutting in, but yeah, it may be. I'm hoping it'll straighten up, but we don't know. Yes, Tony, that is the stream. This is with a true Orthodox priest. He considers Eastern Orthodoxy not to be Eastern Orthodoxy. He considers them apostate. So he's coming on to present his group's view. So that'll be fun.
Which is that they are the true church.
True Orthodoxy, correct.
Yeah.
Very, very, very. I was saying to Tim off stream here. Very nice man, like very cordial. Gets on with Protestants, gets on with Roman Catholics, but not in a religious sense. Like he would view himself as lying if he said to Tim or I consider you brothers. But he's not saying that, like, you know, the way you get some people online, they almost get like a joy out of saying I don't consider you a Christian. His is not that. His comes from a place of, from his opinion, and I don't believe this, but it's what I respect about him. He doesn't consider me a brother, so he would rather I hear the true Orthodox case versus no, Tony, Oriental Orthodox is different. He would also consider them apostate.
Yeah. Yeah, when I think of Eastern Orthodox, and I mean, this is where having Orthodox Philip on would be really great because I could really pick his brain about all, how they use terminology. But I tend to think of it pretty encompassing because I mean, and maybe just Orthodox is the encompassing term, but I think of Orthodoxy being Eastern. When I think of church history, and you have the West was more what we would think of as where Roman Catholicism comes from, and the east part of the ancient church was Eastern Orthodox. That's how I tend to look at it, and then you have groups within that. But maybe Eastern Orthodoxy is a more specific thing.
Well, Eastern Orthodoxy is just a term that encompasses it all. So like
Exactly.
Greek,
That's what I thought.
Roman, like,
Yep.
sorry, not Roman. I meant to say Romanian. But so this is where we'll get into the nuance of it more tonight, and I'll have a better way to explain it to you. He considers them Eastern in the sense that yes, they're from the East, but
Right.
in the Orthodoxy part, no, he thinks that they've fallen away. They are apostate.
Right.
And then to answer Tony's question, it's both of them, Tony. They would both have the Miaphysite view.
It doesn't matter which. Yeah. So that they're agreed on. You're saying.
No, no, no.
Oh
Tony's
no, you're
asking. Yeah,
about the
yeah,
Oriental and the Syrian. Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
And if anybody doesn't know, Miaphysite believes that they believe that Jesus only has one nature,
One
so that the
nature.
divine and the human are sort of like one,
And the rest of the Orthodox would hold to a two nature view.
same as us. Yeah.
Right. Yep. I
So it should be a very good
remember.
stream. Um, we'll move off this because we're here for the stream. But I will say, if you can tune in, do tune in because once I've interviewed him, he's very open to having the phone lines opened up and people calling in to actually ask. So if anybody does want to call in and ask questions, you can.
Is this the first time you've had him on your channel?
Yeah, hopefully not the last.
Depends on, I guess, how the conversation goes.
Your mic's doing that thing where it's fluctuating in and out again.
Well, the audience can let me know. Sometimes I think it's just a computer to computer thing, but we'll see. We'll see.
Tony, that's mainly the Assyrian church, but not all Assyrian.
About concerning Nestorianism.
Nestorianism, yeah, where they divide the persons.
Yes, there's all kinds of nuances.
The natures I meant to say, sorry.
Yeah, natures. Yeah, when you get into church history and all those terms that you hear. Yeah. And that's one good thing about having conversations with some of these other denominations is you can kind of, I mean, they're very well versed on those those types of things because, you know, they emphasize a lot of the councils of the past, and the councils define a lot of those things. So, yeah, what happens if you're Orthodox and you don't? Because I'm actually not familiar, and I know this isn't really our topic. This is just some preliminary stuff. But
just before you go on, if there is anything you can do with your mic, because Saley's also says it does sound like you're underwater.
Uh-oh. Okay, let me take a moment to unconnect and reconnect my mic. Just stay tuned for a second here.
In the meantime, everybody go subscribe to me, and if you don't, we're shutting down this live stream. So, there you have it. Although I think most of our regulars do subscribe to me, because they normally comment anyway, so... See, he can hear me, but he can't speak yet, so I can say anything. Tim now baptizes babies as well, by the way. You know, it's great. He doesn't. Clarifier, he doesn't.
Well, obviously, you just saw I sounded like I was underwater, you know.
Exactly, yeah, you're just getting
Baptists.
Yeah. Anyway, before I throw your mind off your topic you were going to ask.
Oh, well, yeah, just if the Orthodox, like, emphasize councils and hold to councils,
yes,
then when it comes to those types of views, like about the natures and such, I mean, do they just, some of them say, well, that council, we don't hold to that particular council? Are you familiar, like,
so the Eastern Orthodox, so that's all the, like, the groups, like the Greek, the Romanians, like, think of all the Eastern countries, they are just Orthodox, but it's called Eastern Orthodox to encompass all of them.
Right.
They hold to the 7 ecumenical councils. So the Council of Chalcedon is the one that actually met to address the Miaphysite heresy. So they met to refute that and say, no, look, Christ has 2 natures, truly man, truly God. Right. So groups like the Oriental Orthodox and stuff, they already split off before the Great Schism, so they don't hold those councils.
Oh, they split before that. Yeah. Okay.
So before the Great Schism of East and West, the Oriental Orthodox have long broken off. Okay. And that's why they consider themselves the true original church. So every time you get a group claiming to be the original church, trust me, there was a group around that claims to be before them.
Yep. And the first was the Baptist.
Sure. By the way,
John the Baptist, proof.
By the way, just for the audience, I probably am going to slur a little bit. I'm not on the alcohol, I promise. I've caught myself slurring.
You're not going to get. Oh, it's the wisdom tooth. It's the wisdom.
It's because this side of my mouth is numb, and for whatever reason, every now and again, my mouth starts to, like, slur the words.
Yeah. Well, we'll clip it out and use it against you in the future.
I mean, like the bottle's right there. So, like,
my inebriated co-host.
I was going to say it won't be too hard, like the evidence is there.
All right. Well, I'm just going to start off with a video here that I noticed that I saved this, and I actually didn't mention it yet to Layman. So I'm going to put it up here. It's nothing serious. Like, it's not theological. It's just something that was online that people were talking about a lot. It's not even church related. but it's about a woman who got pulled over by a policeman. And this is possible you didn't hear anything about this because this was over here in the U.S.
Yeah.
And so I'll play the video and just see if you have any reaction to it.
Sorry, 2 seconds. Hang on. Don't play just yet.
Okay.
I had left the studio very briefly. I'm back.
You're back.
Yep.
You left? I didn't see you leave.
No, not like out of the studio. I went out of the studio into X for a minute to repost the stream.
Oh, gotcha. Thank you for doing that. No, Tony, I don't have any snacks that are just for me. The only one are the ones that I want to do with my daughter, and I apologize it's been taking me so long to get to that. But I do plan. My daughter's finishing up her school year, so
Yeah.
definitely when we get into the summer here, we should have a good amount of time to record a video or two with her trying those snacks that you sent specifically for her. All right, so this is I think some of the U.S. people probably have seen this, but this is a woman who got pulled over, and hopefully you'll hear this okay. I think it's got captions anyway.
This is why you're being pulled over. The city of Lake Worth today, we're doing an operation for the
I
distracted
did see
driver. You
this.
drove past me holding the phone with your right hand, manipulating that phone. I mean, I saw you
So
with the phone in your
obviously
hand.
not. So you want to just call this a day? Or?
I don't want to call it a day. You had a hand up
You
manipulating
just
the
said
phone.
my right hand.
Well, I thought
This
I
is
saw you
where
with
it
your
gets
hand.
so
You had a hand
interesting
up.
that the police officer, as soon as it was pointed out that obviously she wasn't using her right hand, he kind of doubles down here. So I'll let it play out.
Yeah. Go ahead.
The right hand. I saw you
So you
manipulate
didn't.
with the right hand, perhaps not, right? But I saw
But
you.
you didn't see me with my right
Okay,
hand.
so are you
saying that you saw me with my
I
right
know
hand?
what I just said. I know what
It gets worse. Hold on.
I just said. I'm asking you now. Did you or not have your phone on your hand?
I did not.
You did not have your phone in your
I
hand.
did not.
Hand to God, you didn't have your phone in your hand.
Hand to God.
The other hand to God, you don't have your phone in your hand.
Hand to God.
Cool. You have your driver's license registration?
He gave her a ticket, actually.
Mhm.
He actually gave her a ticket.
Do you know why? This is why I didn't realize you weren't done yet. That's why I stopped. This is not all cops. I'm not going
No,
to
no,
say
no,
it's
no.
no. But what I'm going to say,
Mhm.
this is
Yeah.
not all cops. I know some cops personally, and I mean even over here. But generally speaking, the police attract some of the worst type of people. That the moment they put on a uniform and they have the badge, it's almost like a pride thing where they cannot just like that. All that cop had to say is, "Apologies, I must have been mistaken." Because if she had her left hand up, she wouldn't have had a hand on the wheel of the car at all, and
Exactly,
she
yeah.
would have been swerving. But oh no, he can't be wrong, so he has to say, "Well, I know what I saw," and he still gives her a ticket because he cannot swallow his male pride and walk away and say, "Look, apologies, I don't know what I saw." Because there's a video very similar to this too, where a guy. Now, to be fair, he got a ticket and he got a ticket rightfully, but he was accused of having his phone in his right hand, but he was eating a sub sandwich. Now, the cop eventually apologized to him and said, "Okay, you didn't have your phone in your hand, but you were eating while distracted, so he still got a ticket." But again, just be honest and say, "Look, apologies, I must have made a mistake."
Yeah. Yeah, it's actually a good example of how, as humans, it can be hard for us, even when we're presented with clear evidence. We have to be so careful about our pride because, like, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. But I think she took it quite well. There's a longer version of the video, and he actually, goes back and gives her a ticket, and she doesn't lose her temper. She's obviously frustrated, but she never loses her temper. And then, like, apparently a few days ago, right before it was supposed to come to court,
Mm-hmm.
the cop dropped the whole issue, and so that it would never be brought to court.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's that type of, and I can almost like, again, I'm only speculating, but the likelihood is that he never brought it to court is because he knew it would be thrown out. It's just a way of like, I'm going to drag you along up until the point. It's just
So you had something going on with police over in your neck of the woods. Was that near you?
no, not near me. This was over in England,
Oh, okay.
so Tony will know.
That other country.
Tony should know about it, but it plays into a big part of this. I am going to be very careful what I say because I got very passionate over the Irina situation. I am equally if not more passionate about this situation, but because they are actively arresting people that voice their opinions on this, I need to be very careful. Because I do not support my government in this, and I do not support my police in this.
Okay, so shall I play the video?
Play the video, and then this will give most of the context anyway, but if any of the audience don't know the context, I'll try and explain, but I'm struggling.
You just tell me what I should say in the private, because I'm allowed to say whatever I want here.
You'll be. I'm assuming you're going to come to relatively the same. Yeah, but just watch this and see how truly disgusting it is.
Yeah.
Now let's go to the family Southampton Crown Court.
I am Henry Novak's father.
Tim.
To my left is my daughter Olivia Novak.
Hold on.
Henry's
Yep.
Full screen. They won't see it.
Yep. Sorry about that.
older sister, and to her left is Lucy Ross, Henry's Novak's mother. The jury confirmed what we've always known. Henry's life was taken from him unlawfully, violently, and without justification. Henry was 18 years old. He was kind, ambitious, loved and full of promise. He had his whole life ahead of him, a degree to finish, places to see, and a future to build. That future was stolen from him, and no verdict or sentence will ever give it back. Henry did nothing wrong. He was one of the kindest, friendliest, and most inclusive people you could ever hope to meet. He was amazing in every way. On the 3rd of December last year, Henry was walking home from a night out with his university football teammates when he encountered Vikram Digwa, a man openly carrying a large knife on the streets of Britain. That knife was used to take Henry's life. He should have been safe walking home. Instead, he became another young life lost to the brutal reality of knife crime in this country. Henry had been stabbed multiple times, and as his chest filled with blood, he tried to escape. He was chased, abused, and filmed by Vikram Digwa and others. When police arrived, Henry was lying on the floor, barely able to sit up and plainly in severe medical distress. With his final words, he told officers that he could not breathe. He told them he had been stabbed. In fact, Henry told officers that he could not breathe 9 times. He told them he had been stabbed 4 times. The response from one officer was, "I don't think you have, mate." The police have said they were misled by the murderer and that the scene when they arrived was complex. Unfortunately, it seems to us the truth is much simpler. The police were told by our son himself and by a member of the public who called 999 that they heard someone shout that they had been stabbed. But the police did not believe them. Henry was pulled across the gravel, his hands forced behind his back, and he was placed in handcuffs. Instead of being treated as a dying victim, police formally arrested Henry for assault and read him his rights. That was the last thing he heard. Henry did not die with dignity. He did not die with the care he deserved. He lost consciousness before anyone believed him. Let me be absolutely clear. We hold Vikram Digwa solely and 100% responsible for the brutal murder of our son. But Henry should not have died on the streets of Southampton in police custody. The way he was treated was inhumane and degrading. His murderer, however, was afforded decency. He was believed. He was not handcuffed when arrested. He was not handcuffed when transported to the police station. As far as we understand, he was never handcuffed at all. And, as Vikram Digwa himself told the court, whilst under arrest for Henry's murder, police even took him to the kitchen so he could choose his food.
Lovely.
The contrast is unbearable. We believe the officers involved remain on duty, although we understand some may have since resigned. One was allowed to leave the force before she had given an account to the Independent Office of Police Conduct of what happened that evening. The IOPC investigation remains ongoing. Whilst we await its final report, we are calling on the Home Secretary to ensure that the IOPC has the resources, authority and independence it needs to conduct a full, fearless and transparent investigation. Our families should not have to fight for the truth anymore. Despite the shocking actions of the police on that fatal night, the murder investigation was very different. We would like to express our heartfelt gratitude to Senior Investigating Officer DCI Rebecca Bartholomew, the Serious Crime Team, and particular officer in the case, Claire Proctor. We would also like to thank our incredible family liaison officers, Sarah Page and Trudy May, for their diligence, professionalism and compassion throughout this investigation.
Now, just before we begin to speak about this, Tim, this will be an uncomfortable watch for people, but I sent you the body cam footage as well if you want to take a look at that.
We can. How uncomfortable?
It's not graphic in the sense that you see anything like that, but just wait till you see how this young man was treated by the police.
Yeah. Okay. It's crazy, isn't it? That like how these police will do things even though they have body cams, like that officer who pulled the lady over, and now
well,
this.
I'll tell you my opinion as best I can without getting myself in too much trouble, but I'll say it only after we see this video, because I think people will grasp what I'm saying.
Yeah, don't get yourself in too much trouble.
Oh, no, I won't.
It's going to be our last live stream if you
well,
say...
I know what I can and can't say. All I'm saying is I'm just not going to get too in-depth into this, because I know people will try and take it into something it's not.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to switch over to the other video here.
Mm-hmm.
My dad's holding it now. Right. He keeps dropping side to side, so I'm just trying to keep him set up.
Alright.
He's got a mouthful of blood, I don't want him...
I can't breathe. He was on the bin on the other side of this gate.
He's jumped over these fences and stuff like that. And
Right.
he's up
Move
here.
away, mate.
He's obviously... He's fallen
Right.
from there and he's slipped from there.
There's other shoes left over there, mate.
What's your name, mate? Huh? Has anyone been hurt other than him?
Yeah, me.
He's grabbed
He's grabbed my brother, he's took my turban
No,
off,
that's Vic
started
from-
grabbing my head.
Are you injured?
Yeah, I've got swollen eye, little bruises.
Alright, just step back a little bit for me. Someone flag these down.
Now watch this.
Got this stud.
Right, let's get you out of there, shall we?
I've been stabbed. Dragged him across the gravel.
Grab his other arm.
I can't
Right. What's happened to you, alright? You've been stabbed? Whereabouts? Don't think you have, mate.
Didn't even check.
Hand?
I can't breathe.
Put the hand in the cuff, mate.
This is like numerous times this has happened to us. We've been walking, we can't live around the corner.
Can we get a van
Multiple times we've had people racistly
90
attacked
foot.
us and nothing happened.
He's saying he's been stabbed, so
Where
let's
is it
just
you
check
think you've
him.
been stabbed? In the face? Oh no, but we have to check, don't we?
Right.
In the
You
face?
show me where you checked, because you didn't.
Just get these back off, get their details and that, and I'll keep hold of him.
At least the female did say it's supposed to, like, she was trying to follow protocol.
But now, just for the audience here, pay close attention to the color of Henry's hands. He is white because he is bleeding out.
Should
Right,
we
keep you on your side, mate. You better retrieve then.
Say again.
Saying to him, I'm keeping him on his side. We were set up when we had him here, but he didn't like it. What's your name, mate? At the moment you are under arrest, and that's for assault, so you do not have to say anything, may harm in defence. If you do not mention when questioned, it's up to which you later rely in court. Anything you do say may be given in evidence, alright? It's going to be sick, I think.
What's his name?
I just want you to call it.
Yeah, we've got this male. He's
Just-
been beat up. Are we able to get an ambulance, please?
Drags him again.
His pupils aren't even reacting.
No, because at this point, look,
Yeah.
he's dead.
Ugh.
And you can hear that, and pardon my French here, folks, but you can hear that scum of a police officer constantly repeat, I don't think he has.
Jeez.
Now, this is the thing. I know this. I don't really care whether it gets me in trouble or not, because this is what bothers me. Did Vikram get questioned during that point in time, or did the officer just kind of ask him what's going on? There was no questioning. Do you know why? Our police force are so scared of questioning people that are not white-skinned, coloured people, because they're scared that they're going to get lumped in as racists. So they just don't ask questions. But because Henry was an 18-year-old white guy, oh, he clearly must have been drunk and therefore deserved to be dragged across the gravel. This is the type of two-tier policing that British people have been fighting against now for this last number of years because of Keir Starmer and his left woke nonsense.
And that's him holding back.
Oh, trust me, if I could say what I
I
really
know.
wanted to say, I
know.
would
know.
be in jail. 'Cause here's the
I
thing.
know.
I'm not claiming that this is racial, but what I am claiming is that our police force, I know people in the police, I can't name them because they would get in trouble for it, but they are actively given training on how not to aggravate people of different skin colours because they may be accused of being racist. So if the police showed up to my door and I wasn't dressed, the police don't give me an opportunity to go and put proper clothing on. They handcuff me. Vikram gets to go into his kitchen and make a sandwich because otherwise it might be seen as being racist. Now, bearing in mind, his family also showed up to the court recently. So this happened back in December. The court case has just happened, which is why all of X and all basically social media is talking about this right now. The family showed up to the sentencing of Vikram. Obviously, they're going to be there, but then they racially abused Henry's family to the point where the court actually had to order them out because they were racially abusing him. And then you expect me to believe that it was Henry that was apparently racially abusing Vikram? No. You even heard on the BBC report, they filmed themselves chasing Henry. And then they tried to claim that he fell off a fence. He didn't fall off a fence. If anything, he might have been trying to climb off a fence to escape. At which point he took his ceremonial Sikh blade and he stabbed him in the back. So whenever the police officer was talking about Henry, I think he's about to vomit. No, that was him gasping for his last breaths while his lungs filled up with blood and he was gagging on his own blood. And there's the other thing that really annoys me. See that female police officer that resigned? She resigned because guess what? She'll now still get her police pension whenever she retires because guess what? She was never, it's not the same as a military term, but like she's not disorderly discharged. So when even now whenever this investigation comes, she can't be let go from the police because she resigned voluntarily. So guess what? She still gets her nice cushy little police income. This is her system. It's a joke. It's an actual joke.
And I was curious too, and Tony's, I guess, closer to where that was actually took place. But it said that the guy ended up being sentenced for 21 years.
Minimum.
According to minimum of 21 years.
He's got life.
Okay.
21's minimum.
Okay, it's no opportunity for probation.
There may be at a later date. I don't think there was a condition of bail not being available, but he has got a minimum of 21 years. So normally,
but
whenever
you guys don't have a
whenever
death
you give him-
penalty.
No, but we should.
Yeah, we have some states with the death penalty. So it depends where it takes place.
Yep.
Mm. Okay, Tony said he used to live in Southampton.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Wow.
It's
That's a very sad story.
It's the poor father. Like, the mother and sister were in tears, as you can see. But that poor father
Yeah.
had to stand there and deliver that speech. I couldn't have done that.
Ugh.
I couldn't have done that. I would have been. No, I'm not I'm not any model of example to look to, but I couldn't have stood there and done a speech. I honestly think I would have jumped the barricade and went for Vikram. That's my honest reaction.
Okay, and then Seeley said it would be parole, not probation. A life sentence here is technically 25 years.
Your
Yep.
mic's doing the water thing again. Just leave it; it'll come back.
My Baptist microphone.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
the fact that he's got a minimum of 21 years means that at some stage he probably will be up for
Parole.
getting out. Yeah. We don't really call it parole. Just basically, you'll be analysed whether you're still a threat to society or not. But
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
here's the other thing that I want to make clear. This has got nothing to do with Sikh culture, by the way. This guy does not represent all Sikhs. That's not my claim. But here is my claim. Sikhs, because of their religion, are allowed to carry those ceremonial blades out in the open. We have Muslims, illegals, legally, or not, sorry, not, this isn't legal, but what I mean by legal is nothing's been done about it. Walking down our streets brandishing open machetes. And do you know why they can have them? Can you guess why? Think about this for UK logic. As long as the blade or the handle doesn't have any type of writing on it that suggests it may be used for violence, it's not considered part of an illegal weapon. But do you see, if an Irish person or a British person carries a blade over 2 inches, yeah, we can be arrested on the spot.
Yeah.
And then people want to tell me that it's not a two-tier society, that it's got nothing to do with, there's rules for illegal immigrants, and then there's no rules for illegal immigrants, but there's rules for the people. And then people wonder why there is mass protests in the street, people calling for Keir Starmer to get out of power. Our country right now is a joke with these type of things. It really, really is. And the people are at a boiling point. There was a riot outside that exact police station last night because the people are finally at the stage where if the police don't do something, if the government don't do something, the people are at a stage where they are either going to put people out permanently, and I'm saying that for YouTube's sake, because our government's certainly not putting them out of the country.
Yeah. So, are you planning to take a little break away from your country? I hear something about you coming to visit the U.S.
Well, yeah, Lord willing, next year there's potential. Well, I'll say potential for now because there's things I need to do. But Lord willing, yeah.
Do you ever consider moving somewhere else, or is it more you just?
I love my country. I love
Yeah.
my country. I've got a lot that I
Yeah.
want to continue to do here. And I
Yeah.
don't think I can do that living somewhere else. But do I want to live here long term? That's going to depend on how my country goes in the next coming years, because we are quite literally now at a crossroads. We are at a stage where the public are saying one thing, the government's saying another. So if the government continues to push, I would say you are going to see open paramilitary activity come from my country once again. But it won't be my country alone, because the Scottish, the English and the Welsh are all talking about also revolting. So here's the thing. The government's got a choice to make. But if they continue pushing with this nonsense, yeah, I don't know if I could live here much further, because even what I'm saying right now, I'm not actually exaggerating. I could have the police on my doorstep for my speech. That's the way this is going. I haven't called for violence. I haven't called for anything. I'm just simply saying what is a very real possibility because of how they're pushing people.
And
But
haven't there
because
been
of me
people?
saying this, sorry, I was just going to say, just because of me saying this, I would have the police on my door saying that I'm basically using unwarranted speech.
Yeah, I mean, haven't there been people that I've been seeing, and I don't know how common this stuff is, but like someone got arrested pretty recently again for praying, something like that.
Yeah, I did a post on it, a video on
Yeah.
it, an article on it. It was a pastor from where I am. He prayed in a town that is very close to me, outside of a hospital. He didn't have any signs. He didn't have anything else. Grandpa, who had served his community for 60-something years, was an active member in the community, a member, like, pillar of the community. He now has a criminal record because my government doesn't like the idea of Christians praying in public. Now, not that that's going to affect him too much because he is retired, but imagine that for someone like me or anybody else. You could get an active criminal record which will stop you from getting jobs, or at least severely diminish your chance of getting a job. Because whenever you submit for a job, you have to legally state whether you have a criminal record and what for. Now, a company can automatically refuse me on that basis, and purely just because they're like, you know what, I don't want to hire a Christian. Normally they can't do that because that would be considered discrimination. However, if it's under the premise of I have an illegal record because I was a Christian, oh, that's suddenly okay.
Now, doesn't the UK still have Christianity as its official religion?
It's a Christian country. I would agree with that. Does our government act like it's a Christian country? No, they do
No,
everything.
I get that, but here's what I'm just kind of noticing. Like, the U.S. does not as overtly combine church and state. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we never claimed to combine them the way that England did.
Yep.
And yet, it sounds to me like your government is more biased against Christianity than ours even.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The government does not operate as if this is a Christian country. Charles,
it's just weird that you're you know, like the way you're structured, you actually have, from what I understand, a state religion, and yet how can that even legally be the case? How can you have a state religion and then discriminate against it?
Because if you have a royal family and a parliament who have become increasingly secular, who openly say phrases like, for example, King Charles didn't even want the normal royal moniker of the Defender of the Faith. He wanted to be called Defender of the Faiths.
Yeah.
Then you have Parliament, who, by the way, members of Parliament, you would be lucky if you could count on one hand members that are actually Christian. So that's what I'm saying. Like, we can claim to be a Christian country all we want. A lot of our laws are built on Christian laws. But the thing is, when you have people in power who actively dislike Christianity, who actively dislike the outreach of Christianity, and actively are seeking to change our laws, there's only so far you can claim that you are now a Christian country.
Yeah, I'm just curious, like, why the laws or the structure, maybe it is going to be changed, but it just seems to me like you guys still have this vestigial concept of being officially a Christian country.
Not so much. It's like Tony's even alluding to it there with the Anglican Church. Like, take the Church of England. Like, we would say right now that the seat is vacant because you've got a bishop as the Archbishop of Canterbury who is a woman. So that seat.
Well, I know this is very Baptist of me, but this is my struggle with when you just try to combine state and church. Like, I get the concept, and I'm not saying there can't be some sort of a relationship. I think there should be, but when you just say, "Hey, we're just going to have a Christian nation," it's not as simple as that.
No, it's not simple, but I would also say and there's not in reference to you, I'm saying a lot of people also misunderstand state and church. It doesn't mean that the state has the authority to interfere with the church's affairs. She exists to serve the church. If anything, what the original defenders of church and state opted for was they wanted the church with her sphere to be able to reach into the state sphere and tell them what they should be doing for the good of the community. But that gets blended and people come to wrong conclusions, and
That's almost
this is, yeah, I was just
yeah.
gonna say, this is now what we have over here. We have now just a weird sort of like messed up. Nobody knows who's in charge. Nobody knows what law to follow. It's dumb.
Well, that's what's so fascinating to me, because what you just described, like, again, I'm from a Baptist background, and Baptists will say, we don't believe that the state and church separation means that the way they would put it is it's separation of the state from the church. In other words, the state does not have ultimate authority to tell the church what to do. Whereas we don't think that it means that the church is separated from the state in the sense that we can't have influence and the government can't enact things that are for, reflecting Christian morals and principles. So I actually think Baptists, they can get kind of mischaracterized as being very, and some Baptists are anti-government.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't think Baptists historically were anti-government. I think they actually were carrying out a lot of what you're talking about. And I'm just saying, I think I don't know if what I'm saying is coming across clear. It's interesting when you have a country that officially on paper says we are Christian, but then, I think, Tony, what you just said there, you have the state church, but is the Anglican church still Christian is the question. That is my criticism of, like, trying to put a stamp on something. I mean, and this kind of feeds into the whole, like,
Hey, Leslie.
there's a lot of debate, and I know we're in a time right now that we're kind of like, we're in such a time of deconstruction. I think there's this real desire to almost a reconstruction and institutional impulse. And so specifically as an example, I would point to like what Redeem Zoomer is saying and doing. Sorry to bring him up, but what he's saying is like Christians should be trying to reinvigorate these institutions, these historic institutions. But it kind of gets back to that. Well, at what point are those institutions just not Christian enough to reinvigorate?
Well, that's my opinion. That's why I disagree. Like I think he has a noble goal.
Yeah.
I think the goal is noble, but I think there needs to be a recognition, though, that when an institution has gone from being Christian with the opportunity of being reinvigorated to Christian, which is now apostate, that's the problem. So for me, whenever an institution, and again, people are going to ask questions, how do we know that? What does that look like? That's something we would have to flush out. I don't think there's any clear dividing mark where you can clearly point to and go, yeah, that's it. But there are enough things that you could point to and go, yeah, that is no longer a Christian church. It's an apostate church. And at that stage, you're not reviving something that is dead. You're just not.
That's really, challenge. So Celie, I'll just put her comment up here. She says, I'm all for the church having influence upon and in the government, but the government should not have say over the church or have say. This is very American sentiment here.
But see, here's the thing.
As you know, the Westminster Confession was modified here.
But here's the thing. This would be roughly the original church and state amendment, because we look at it and see that within the Christian life there's three spheres of life. You have the church, you have the government, and you have the family, right? These three spheres, I'm struggling with the S's, they are not all separate but some of them don't have reach into the other spheres. So, for example, the church does have a reach into the family life. It should show the family how to live, what to do, all those sorts of things. The family also likewise has a reach back into the church where their faith is lived out. They fund the church, they give to the church, all of that. Now, in a very minimal scale, the state has the duty to protect churches, to protect congregants. They do have the duty to reach into churches a little bit and say, hey, look, this is what your building needs to comply with in regards to things like health and safety. Those are things where we can say that's fair government reach. But what the state has no authority to do, and what we have always recognized, the state has no authority to come in, sit down during one of your sermons, Tim, take a note and come back to you at the end of the service and says you can no longer preach against this, 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 and this. That's an overreach, and that's where we would say the church tells the state, back into your lane, Mr. State. You don't belong here. That was always the original intent. Sadly, intents don't always get kept, and those things do bleed over. We now live in a society where the state thinks it can not only reach into the church, but it can also reach into the family. I don't know if you guys have it as much, but we have things over here where the state thinks they can tell parents how to teach their children, what to teach them, how many days they have to be in school, how many days they can't be in school. They're not allowed to go on holidays during school. If you teach against LGBTQ issues, you can have social services show up in your door to make sure that your children are protected, and even in some cases remove them from you. Who gave the state that authority? No one. It's an overreach. That's why we need to be very clear. The people need to be very clear. You, Mr. State, only get to do what God entitled you to do, and that is to be a terror to the evildoer and a rewarder of the good. That's it.
A good, interesting example of how this operated in the United States is actually with Mormonism, because the Mormon Church originally was polygamist, and the government actually was like, no, we're not going to have that, which I think is really fascinating. That's kind of
They got that
counterintuitive to how a lot of Christians today think about how we should relate to the government, but that's pretty government interference way of approaching a matter like that, for it to say, no, we don't accept that as valid. And yet I would argue that that ended up being a very good thing for our country and for Mormonism.
Yeah, well, the key thing is there's a group of Mormons today. I forget their name now, but they still practice polygamy. And they separated off at that time period, and they think that the Mormon church that exists today is not the true Mormon church, similar to like we were talking about the Eastern Orthodox thing. But this is the thing. That's an area where I would say the state would also have a right to step in. Not step in the sense of like we're going to overreach, but originally, for example, if I now said, not that I ever would, but let's just say for argument's sake, if I now said men are allowed to have 3 wives and women are allowed to have 3 husbands, the state, from a biblical perspective, would have the right to step in and say, not in our country, you don't. Why? Because the authority ultimately should come from the sphere of the church, with the state enforcing it. But it doesn't work that way now, because we now have the state that thinks itself above the church.
That's right.
So the state would then say, oh no, I'm enforcing this just because this is what I want to enforce. And that's why you do have some countries that enforce completely...
Yeah. I think Christians intuitively desire Christian morality, and generally America has reflected that. The challenge, much like what you've been describing, is that's eroding. So like right now in America, there's a real big push for Pride Month. That's June here. And that's culturally it's kind of the culturally predominant approach to how society should function and what it should value. We should have this special month dedicated to promoting that. And that's not reflective of our historic Christian beliefs at all.
Yeah.
But again, what's tricky, it would be a lot easier if all the Christians would just say, hey, this is wrong, we all agree it's wrong, and we're going to hold. Instead, you actually have quite a few churches out there that are actually pushing it, that are actually, advocating, and that just complicates it all the more.
Mm-hmm. This is why it's a complicated topic for many reasons, but I'm not advocating that we all go under one banner like Rome or the East or everybody becomes Protestant. But I would also recognize that there is also a lot of damage that is done by being so divided. This is why I would always caution people not to divide further and say, look, let's not all treat ourselves as if we're like a separate entity. Why not come together as a Christian? Again, not necessarily under one big banner of we are this church. But you can come together and say, look, this is a biblical principle. This is a biblical ethic. Let's enforce it. Let's stand for it. But often what you will get is you will get some churches or some individuals that would be like, oh no, I can't partner with them because that would then mean that I'm somehow affirming everything they believe. That's false. Can I go to an anti-abortion rally with a Roman Catholic? 100% I can, and I should. Does that mean I agree with my Roman Catholic friend on everything? No, of course not. That mentality that gets pushed, that if you support each other in these like things that are, when I say minor, I don't mean that abortion's minor, but I mean minor in the sense that, if you agree on a minor point, oh, that must mean you agree with everything. That's false. It's a false narrative.
I think it's a question of, in what situations you partner, for what reasons you partner. So, like, I totally agree. I'm going to partner really with anybody who's going to push that moral value of preserving life and standing up for the rights of these unborn children. I think that is a moral value. I can partner with people for an anti-abortion cause. But if we're talking about like some sort of a worship context, that's where, you're going to say, well, if we have differences and it's going to violate my conscience or what I truly believe in, then we have to sort that out. And that's a different context. So you always have to look at in what particular manner are you partnering? For what reason are you partnering? And not all reasons are the same. Not all contexts are the same. Like, I could partner with an atheist to paint a house.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing wrong with that.
No, but according to some groups, there would be, you shouldn't partner with that person because they are an atheist.
Oh, unequally yoked?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They take stuff like, if you, like,
right,
for example, like, they go way too far with things. Like, if they were logically consistent, things would be very, very different. They're obviously not. But for example, I know a pastor that would have that view. You shouldn't partner with a Roman Catholic in an abortion rally, right?
Yeah.
But here's the thing. If he was logically consistent that we can't partner with them for anything, could he go to our local bank that's run by a Roman Catholic? No, he couldn't. But does he bank at that bank? He does.
Yeah, I think of unequally yoked. That more touches on something like what we were just talking about earlier, when you're in an institution that has become idolatrous. Like, to me, that's where I would struggle. It's like, I mean, I desire unity. I would love to see more unity. But if you have people calling themselves Christians that are pushing for anti-biblical things, that seems like unequally yoked. If I partner with them and they're pushing for something that morally is wrong.
Yeah.
Of course, they say we're wrong. They look at us as being the ones that are anti Christianity.
Are you all right, Rolo?
Yeah, I've thought of that too, Tony. That if I ever, for some reason got invited to speak at a church and they had a rainbow flag, I might just do a sermon on Genesis 9.
Very
Talk
sad.
about the rainbow.
Very sad thing is though, but if you look at their flag now, I'm not talking about the one that has all the multicolors on it now with all the trans stuff, but if you even look at the actual original rainbow flag, it's not actually even a proper rainbow. It's not the 7 colors. It's a variation.
Yep. And that's symbolic, isn't it? You know, that I do think that Satan has a way of mimicking and yet always changing it, you know?
Well, biblically, he does. Like that's
Yeah.
for example, like not that we're going to get into this topic right now, but whenever you look at what the mark of the beast is, it's a demonic mimic of what God set up in the Old Testament. Because whenever God says he wanted his people to be marked on their hands and their heads, that wasn't a literal marking, but it was to symbolize your thoughts think of me and your hands do the actions that I require them to do. So what does Satan require with his mark? It's the opposite. Your thoughts are of him and your works of your hands are of him.
Yep. I'm going to actually, this kind of ties into what we've been talking about. So I'm going to show something, and I actually saw this from someone I know, but I'm not going to show their name because I want to kind of keep a personal thing out of it. But what they posted, I mean, look at this. This is the kind of stuff that wishing all the homophobes and transphobes a super uncomfortable month. And the idea that a lot of people are pushing is that they're like, we should be loving. And then I'm thinking, but are you loving the people that disagree with you? Are you loving because here you are literally
Rules
saying, I
don't
hope
go
you're
that way.
uncomfortable.
Rules don't go that way for people like that. You have to submit to their way, not them to you. It's not a two-way street. But also, here's the other thing. Whenever people say you're a homophobe or a transphobe, I often see people say things like, oh no, I've got nothing. I'm not a homophobe or I'm not a transphobe because I'm not afraid of that. There is another definition to that term of phobia where it's you're intolerant of it. And my response is, yeah, I am a homophobe.
You're
and I'm a
repelled by
transphobe.
it, right? Yeah, something that's hydrophobic is drawn to it. Hydrophilic is drawn to it, and something that's hydrophobic is repelled by it.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. That is another definition.
Yep.
But God is sin phobic under that, and he's repelled by sin, and it doesn't just apply. And I think we always need to make that clear. It can sometimes come across as there's just certain sins that God really hates, but God hates all sin.
Yep.
And we all have sin.
And that's why I want to point out that as well. That's not me walking around taking pride in that. I'm just trying to get Christians comfortable with the idea. Jesus said this as well. You are going to be called all sorts of names. You might as well get comfortable with them. Because people think labeling you a homophobe or a transphobe or a racist or whatever, unless you are actually those things, like unless I am really homophobic where I just hate my neighbor because he's gay and I want to see him dead, okay, then I'm in sin. But if I love my neighbor and like Tony says, I just call out the sin because I love him and he calls me a homophobe, I shouldn't run around be going, oh, I can't talk to Tony, or sorry, not Tony because I'm thinking of Tony, but random name, Trevor. I can't talk to Trevor anymore because he thinks I'm a homophobe. I know Christians like that. They're so scared of being called a homophobe or a transphobe or a racist, they'll not actually say how things actually are. You need to stop giving words power where they don't actually hold power. The only way those things would actually be true is if you were actually those things, because then, you do have something to repent of. But
Peter. Yep,
go ahead.
I agree. Peter says, that that he actually uses this term that they will slander you as evildoers. He says to the Christians, you're as aliens and strangers, keep your behavior excellent among the Gentiles so that when they slander you as evildoers, like literally from the beginning of the church, this has been a tactic that Satan uses. He says, look at those Christians, they're evil.
100%, because we all know what it's like. There are some people out there that do seek confrontation.
Yeah.
I don't mind confrontation, but I'm not a seeker of it. Like, I don't get joy out of it. It also kind of makes me feel very uncomfortable too, because like No one wants to be in a heated back and forth. It's not enjoyable. Like, it's just not. Like, your emotions can get away with you if you can't control them. Like, anxiety can build up in you, adrenaline can build up. It's not a pleasant feeling. So never ever would tell a Christian to seek out controversy, but at the same time, you shouldn't be afraid of controversy. Because there's this thing that we all have as humans. There's an element of us all, to varying degrees, where we are people pleasers. We don't want to be called a transphobe. We don't want to be called a homophobe or racist or this, that, and the other. That's why the world can weaponize that against you, because you're so afraid of it that they know if they call you it, you're going to back down and go, I'm just not going to speak. I don't want to cause any trouble. Well, no, there are times to cause trouble. Anyway, I need to run very briefly to the bathroom. I shall be back.
Okay, and I'll see if I can get my... So Layman will come back in a little bit here, and he can comment on this as well. But Tony says, calling out sin as sin is loving. I love them too much to let them go to hell. And I think that's exactly right. I think that one of the ways that Satan deceives is he makes it seem as if any type of judgment is unloving. And yet any loving parent is going to tell their child, this is right, this is wrong. And that's love, to not tell your children what is right for them, what is good for them. And the interesting thing about being a parent is that you do have that experience very often, especially when they're young and you're just teaching them the rules and right from wrong, that they will actually react in anger and act as if you're the one being mean, act as if you're being hateful. And I think that's that sinful response we have in our sinful nature, that even when we're being shown love, we actually take it and misconstrue it as hate. And it's because there is a dynamic there that we do hate things that are wrong. And so there is something we're opposing. And yet, we can hate something that's wrong and love at the same time. And that's exactly what we see in God's nature. And I also think it's interesting because Jesus is known as being so loving. And I don't know how many of you, think about this. I know I think about it a lot, how our culture says, well, Jesus would just love. And I think, yeah, but if you read the words of Jesus, he never compromises on sin, and he's very upfront with people. And of course, yes, there were many, of the religious elite that he was very upfront with, but you read the Sermon on the Mount, and he's speaking about morality in such a way that it hits on everybody. It applies to everybody's sin. And so Jesus never pulled punches. Even the woman at the well, who he showed great love to, he said to her, when she says, I have no husband, he just point blank says, yeah, you're right. You've had 5 husbands and the guy you're with now isn't your husband. He never pulls punches. So it's not it's not unloving to be truthful. And I think that's what Tony is very rightly pointing out there.
Yep, I heard that, by the way.
Yeah, did my little monologue while you were gone.
Yep.
Everybody got to hear my...
I have been, my mouth just is so dry. I've been down in so much water that I just couldn't hold any longer.
I get it. Well, maybe I'll leave you for a few minutes and then you can have a monologue.
Go for it. You can really see, I get red cheeks at night. I know because, the heat always comes on, but, you can really see
those
the
wisdom teeth can be brutal. When I was a teenager, I had one that got infected, and I mean, it swelled so bad. That was so painful.
Yeah. The funny thing is, some people everybody has wisdom teeth, but for a lot of people, they don't even come in at all, or, they come in so, they don't fully erupt. There's a term for it. I can't remember what it is, but they only basically touch the top layer of the gum where they don't really rupture through. But for people who get them later in life, because you do traditionally have them more as a teenager, 20s, it's not unheard of to have them in your 30s, but whenever you get them in your 30s, they come in harder because your jaw is kind of already shaped where you don't have much room left for your teeth to grow. So if it comes in at an angle, oh, you're in trouble. So pray for me that this one does not come in at an angle, because like I really do not like the dentist.
Oh. Yeah. Have you ever watched
Impacted. Thank you, Leslie. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. Have you ever watched the comedian Brian Regan? Does that ring a bell? He has a sketch that he does where he talks about. It's basically talking about how socially people try to one up each other in their conversations.
Oh.
And an example he uses is about trying to tell people how he had 2 wisdom teeth taken out, and then he's like talking about how people always have to say how they had more wisdom teeth, and like it's hilarious. And then ultimately, it's called Moonwalk. I'll have to play you the clip sometime
Yeah.
because he has this fantasy that he could be one of the few people who ever walked on the moon, so that he could outdo anybody in a conversation.
It's so funny you bring that up. I actually was talking about that on X yesterday. We honestly, and I don't think most people, there are some people that kind of do it because that's their personality. There's other people who don't know they're doing it, but they're just kind of trying to relate to you and be like, oh yeah, I had that happen too, but listen to my story, where it comes across as like they're dismissing yours in order to say theirs. But I really hate that type of like, oh yeah, what do you hear this? Because I've got one back. It's really dismissive, and it irks me because it's like, yeah, okay, I get it, you had it too, but like, I'm trying to tell you something, and you're immediately going, oh yeah, what about me?
Yes, exactly.
We're very bad at listening these days. We just want to tell our story.
I'm gonna put up some comments just because people were kind of chiming in here. Tony said, I would rather stand with God and be judged by the world than stand with the world and be judged by God. For sure. And then Seeley said, I've even had a couple women at church who have disagreed with my stance that abortion is murdered and that no woman should seek it out.
It's sad. It's sad, especially when you do get things like that in church, because we all kind of have the well, it's an assumption. We all assume at church, oh, we all share the same view on this topic. Then you say it out loud and someone will be like, whoa, wait a minute, I didn't know you were one of those types of Christians. And it's like, what do you mean one of those? You mean people that believe the Bible? Yeah.
Those types of Christians.
No, I've had that phrase said to me before, though, but like I have been called an overly zealot religious something or other. I can't remember what it was. I've been called a whole host of things, which I don't even take as an insult, but it's always wild to me when someone says to me, like, the most wild comment I ever got in a YouTube video was, for a Christian, you take the Bible way too seriously. I was like, as opposed to, like, not taking it seriously?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And I was talking a little bit ago about, how when we love our children, we tell them what's right. So Leslie here was agreeing and said, even when you're shunned by your adult child for years because you stood up for what, that is really hard.
Yeah, Leslie shared about that before, and we're still praying for that situation, Leslie, so thank you.
That is so tough. And then Tony mentioned about abortions, and I think he said it's 11 million. 11 million abortions in the UK. He started saying 1, but then he corrected it to 11.
Yeah.
Since 1967 Abortion Act, twice as many as the Holocaust.
Look, there's not a one-upmanship, because we just talked about this, but like, where do you hear this for a wild stat? Don't remember the exact date, but like not that long ago, Ireland for the first time lost its right to life to the unborn. We actually lost that in our laws, which means abortion was allowed. I think it feels like it wasn't that long ago, but I want to say it was like 2018 or something. Since 2018, we have had 8 million deaths due to abortion.
Since how many?
8 million.
8 million since
2018.
And then Seeley says 63 to 66 million here since 1973 in the U.S. and approximately 3 billion abortions worldwide is what Tony said. Unbelievable. Like, that's just hard to fathom. Ugh.
It's hard for us to fathom, but at the same time, This is why I always say I think people think too lightly of God's wrath. I
Yeah.
cannot imagine what the judgment will be like for people that die in their sin, believing that abortion is justified.
Yeah.
I don't even want to imagine it, put it that way.
Well, that's again one area where a lot of Christians, and of course there are, some groups that, again, they're not biblical, but there are many Christians of different traditions who actually agree on this issue of abortion,
Mm-hmm.
and that's good, but it's almost surprising how prevalent abortion is, considering how much Christians agree on it and how many people profess to be Christians. But actually, Seeley kind of pointed it out. You could be in a church, and you can have people next to you who are waffling on that issue.
There is, and here's the other thing, and I'm not saying this to be a jerk,
Yeah.
because this is true of me and in other situations. With the unborn, I'm not going to say that, but with other situations, I'm guilty of this. We're very good at saying we're against things.
Yeah.
How actually against it are we if we don't do anything?
But when you're, I guess what I'm kind of, just trying to point out, at least in the U.S., is you have so many Americans who would say they're Christian, right? So that should mean it's not like we should have to stand up for it in some sort of like we're a minority. You know what I'm saying? Like it wouldn't even be hard if we all really just.
That was my point.
I know
of
it ties
saying
into your.
that, yeah.
I know it ties, but I'm just saying, like, it just boggles my mind. Like, I get that a lot of people think standing up means standing up, but it just shows you like there is something really inconsistent there. And that's not the only issue. I mean, there are so many inconsistencies. Yeah.
That's why I say on other issues, someone could rightly say to me, hey, you talk a lot about so-and-so, but what do you actually do about it? And I would have to say to them, you're right. I actually talk a lot about it, and I don't do enough about it.
Yeah. That's a tough thing. Well, I think I mentioned it. I've been reading Uncle Tom's Cabin, and I'm just finishing it up. So I'll be done probably later today. And I mean, it took a long, hard fight for our countries to stop practicing some things that were very inconsistent. Again, that's a nice way to put it, but it was like hypocritical, like.
Yeah, I think in a lot of ways, and again, this is not saying that we need to go back to these types of practices, right? But I'm just pointing this out for the principle's sake of it. A lot of people would be annoyed about the fact that Christians came in and put a stop to the Aztec culture of human sacrifice. They would be annoyed about that because we actually came in and did that by force. We put people to the sword and said, if you practice this, you will die by it, right? We today in our modern society are so far removed from the idea of there being a righteous taking of life that we would look at that now and go, oh, but we can't tell people, that if they practice XYZ, we'll put them to death or whatever. I understand that, but what I'm saying to you is Christians are so far removed from even any type of concept of that they're not even willing to stand up and say, hey, you want to do that, you're going to have to go through me. That's my point. We've got no backbone anymore.
Yes.
Because we look at stuff like that and go, well, that's too violent.
Ironically, the world has become more passionate about its moral system than a lot of Christians, because you talk about like enforcing by death. Yes, they will say that they don't believe in the death penalty, but when I hear people talk, I think there are a lot of people who want they want Christians dead, or they want people who oppose certain things to be dead, right?
It's not even that long ago. Charlie Kirk. Look at how many people after he died were like, that was justified. We should do more. Trust me, our enemies, not just our enemies, but like I'm just saying that for the sake of it, our enemies are not shy about the fact, yeah, they would want to see Bible believing Christians put to death, because they often say the world would be a better place without them. Now, does that mean that everybody on the left is going to want to commit murder or whatever? No, of course it doesn't. No one's making
No,
that
I just
claim.
think it speaks to that impulse
Oh,
that
it does. Yeah, that's
we
why I'm bringing
understand.
it up.
Yeah, we understand as humans that judgment is good, but when we are skewed in our moral structure, then we begin to try to enforce judgment very harshly on things that are actually the opposite of what we should be judging. And I think that's always been a problem in history. That's why, it's just we live in a fallen world, and it's something we only God can deliver us from. Oh yeah, and there's a good question here. Did you see
Well,
that?
I was actually going to point that out. I was going to say, I know you have a video you want to get to, but I think we should maybe address that.
Yeah, it's definitely a very, very good question. Tony says, as we seem to be talking ethics, how should we as Christians view assisted dying? I have an unsaved friend who's terminally ill and asked my opinion. It's not something I feel able to discuss. Yeah, that's I could see how it would be challenging to talk about that. I do have thoughts on it, but Layman,
So
if
do
you
I.
want to
I'm just going to pull something up here, so just give me a slight minute.
Okay.
I need to log
Yeah.
into my Bible software.
I mean, obviously, when you're talking about a specific situation, there's things that you know about that situation that are very specific. I mean, I think it matters if you're talking to a person who already knows the Lord. We of course as Christians can look at this with a lot different perspective than the world around us that has no hope, And I think when you look at death without hope, it gives you a very different view of death.
Mm-hmm.
I look at death as something that God can use it in a good way in our lives. Even the process of dying
Do you mind,
can have.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I didn't mean to cut you off. Just whenever you're done, would you pull that up on screen for me?
Yeah, let me see
Oh,
what
you,
I can do
you
here.
finish your point first. Sorry.
Yeah, I'll try to remember what I was saying. Just that, the process of death is something that if you're just looking at things from a naturalistic perspective, you could just be like, well, just end suffering. That's all you need to do is end suffering. But from a Christian perspective, suffering is actually something that God allows or even ordains in our lives. Job suffered under God's permission, and God brought about things through that suffering. So I would say it's easy for us to just, want to do the simple thing that the culture pushes for and just get rid of suffering. And don't get me wrong, there is also wisdom in we're not told that we're not allowed to take pain medicine. We have to suffer as much as possible. If you get your wisdom tooth taken out, you're not allowed to have anesthetics. I don't think we have to suffer as much as possible. But I do think when it comes to taking life, I'm incredibly, incredibly hesitant to ever say that we have the right to do that.
Mm-hmm.
You want me to pull up your thing
Yeah,
there?
please. Yeah, I had this software logs me out. It's one of my favorites, but it logs me out all the time, and I have to log into it. But is that up on screen? Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
It's on the screen.
So this is Genesis 9:6, and it says this: "Whoever sheds man's blood, by man his blood shall be shed. For in the image of God he made man." Now, this is not just me saying this. This has been the consistent testimony of all of church history, and I mean all of church history. Because assisted dying is the modern term we give to this, but even the fathers had to address things like this, where someone was born, basically paraplegic. They couldn't walk, they couldn't talk, and they seemed to be suffering. Was it not just better to end their life? That presupposes, like what Tim already said, it presupposes that death would be better than the suffering. Suffering in Scripture, like Tim said, it can be for our good and our glory, but Scripture says more importantly that it works for us, those in Christ, this is, but it works for us the weight of an unmentionable glory. Now, the reason I bring this up is this qualifies everything from intentional murder to unintentional manslaughter to abortion to assisted dying. The reason why it is wrong is it's this. This would be a direct assault upon the image of God. So what you think you are doing, and this is not me saying this to Tony, this is me saying this in general.
Yeah, Tony already said he knows he
Oh,
opposes it.
I know. I just want to clarify, not for Tony's sake, but because people watch this later too, they could think I'm just being a jerk. But what I'm saying to you is this: we, in our fathomable, finite wisdom, hate looking at suffering. We hate it because we care for the person that's in front of us. But there's also a very selfish aspect in it for us where we just don't want to see it. It's uncomfortable for us.
Yeah.
God does not take any pleasure in any of us suffering. But there's a reason why the prohibition on the taking of life even encompasses those that we could look at and in our modern sense go, oh, assisted dying. The reason why we say assisted dying is because we're trying to separate it and say, look, I don't want to call this murder, even though that's what it is. But the reason why Christians historically have always been against this is because the taking of a life is a direct assault upon the image of God. Because it's the image of God that you bear his likeness. That is the reason that gives you worth. That is the reason that gives you dignity. Because if you took, for example, and this is where we move into the abortion conversation, if you give subjective criterion like, okay, there's no brain pattern before X amount of weeks, therefore it's not alive. If that's your criterion, you can kill that child. But here's the thing. What happens to someone's in a coma that has no brain activity? Are they somehow no longer human? No, of course not. We know that logically. So here's the other one they'll do. Oh well, this child doesn't have any memories yet. It hasn't made any memories. Okay, let's look at someone who's now got Alzheimer's. They've lost their memories. Is that person now no longer human? No. These are subjective criterion that we use as excuses. So the other excuse that we do is, for example, if I saw my dog Rolo suffering, it is my good and right duty to put my dog down. Why? Because he is suffering unnecessarily. He's not made in the image of God. So whenever I put him down, I'm doing him a mercy and a justice. But if that was my grandfather sitting before me and he was suffering and he was dying, as much as it would pain me, I don't get to play God. I don't get to take his life. Because here's the thing. I don't know what God's doing in that suffering. I'm not saying God's the cause of the suffering. I'm saying I don't know what he's doing in the suffering. Could God be working in that person upon their bed where they're in agony, they don't want to live? Could they be wrestling with questions of, is God real? Of course. So what happens if you take someone's life before maybe they come to a conversion?
Right.
You've played God and you've taken a life. So as complicated as this subject seems, it's only complicated in the emotional aspect. But here's the thing. You can't take emotions, which are subjective, and place them as your objective standard for when it is okay to take a life. Because Scripture says to you objectively, there is no good reason to take a life unless it's for example, say the death penalty, because that's a different category.
Yeah, whoso sheds blood, the blood of man, by man shall his
that's why I say
his blood be shed. Yeah,
direct category. Yep.
I also was thinking as you're talking there that do we really want to give the power of life and death to people who don't even acknowledge the prerogative of God? They don't even worship God. And like in our culture, well, our cultures, more and more, you have people who don't even acknowledge God. You want them to have the power over who lives and who dies? Because you're right. Right now, they're saying it's for this, but that list can grow. That list can grow to all kinds of things that they don't deem, oh, it really would be better if you weren't here.
It already has. I'm not going to
Yeah.
name the countries right now. I'll drop them in the comments after because I don't want to speak wrongly. But I know this actually exists. I just can't remember the exact countries. I know they're Asian. I do know that much. There's certain Asian countries where if you're poor or you're in debt, you can go into an assisted suicide booth because you've got no other way of getting out of poverty. And to those countries, you are considered a burden. So the best thing you can do is just, go and make yourself no longer a burden. That's already, so it's no longer just, this idea of, a mercy because someone's suffering. It moves into other areas. It becomes a form of eugenics.
And Satan always, historically, broadens that and persecutes God's people. That's where I'm ultimately going with that. Eventually, that would mean Christians would be killed. That's just
100%.
yeah.
Not
So
just
Tony said, "Thanks, Layman. Genesis 9:6 is the clincher." I was also leaning into Deuteronomy 32:39.
Yeah, that's a good one as well. But here's the thing, Tony. And as hard as this is, because I'm not in your position, it doesn't mean I never will be. There's so many things that gets played on well-meaning Christians, and it's the emotional argument. That's what people do all the time when it's abortion. They'll say that poor mother, she's suffering, she was raped, she shouldn't have to bring that baby to term. That will play on anyone's heart because you would look at that and you would sympathize with that poor woman. I know I would. I would look at that and go, that's awful that happened to her. But does she now get to go and take the child's life? No, of course not.
Doesn't it seem like all sin has that potential element to it? Like I was talking earlier about how our kids need to be told right from wrong. But what if your kid turns around and says, "You're making me so sad, and this is really hurting me." You just have to say, "Look, even if you feel like it's hurting you, it's for your good."
Dude,
It's for your good.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times when I was growing up, I don't remember them all, obviously, but I know there is times in my life where either my mom or like someone else refused me something, and I uttered the words in anger, "I hate you."
Yeah.
Why? Because they didn't let me have my way.
That's true.
That's it. Now imagine being a parent and hearing your child saying they hate you because they're doing something for your good and your little dumbass isn't smart enough to work out that, oh no, this is for my good, but I hate you because I'm just not getting my way. Yeah. Like, that's what this also is. This is, people refuse to understand that because you're not giving into the emotional appeal of, oh yeah, they're suffering, let's help. And because you're presupposing that is helping. You're presupposing
and again, that
you're operating with a
we're kind of putting ourselves at the center. I think that's one of the lessons of the book of Job. And Job is to be pitied on one level. Like what Job went through was horrible. But the whole conclusion of that is, Job, you're not God. You don't really understand everything. Only God can. And so we're kind of elevating our prerogative.
Yeah.
When we're defining morality based on our own feeling or our own outlook, we always have to bring it to a higher level.
I'm glad you brought that up because, believe it or not, someone actually texted me that question recently. They asked me, why did Job go from being commended from God to being not condemned, but why did God rebuke Job? And it's this: Job started off well by saying, "This has came from the hand of the Lord. I will receive it, whether good or bad." Right? Mm-hmm. Job slowly along the way moves into, "I want an audience with God. I want to question God." Yeah. To which God says to Job, "Hang on a minute. Yeah. Where were you when I set the foundations of the earth? Where were you when I placed the Pleiades and the Orion?" Yeah. Job eventually goes, "I'll shut my mouth." He realized, I went from accepting the Lord's, whatever way you want to put it, I went from accepting the hand that the Lord gave me to saying, I want to question the Lord. Yeah. That's the thing. Now, Job didn't sin in the way his friends did. I wouldn't even go as far as to say Job sinned.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
But he did something unwise. He went from taking his subjective experience and objectively questioning the Lord. And again, that's something I would like to point out to people. We often tend to think of things as very black and white. It's either sin or not sin. Scripture doesn't really speak of it that way. Sometimes there are things that are just unwise that are not necessarily sinful. That was one of them with Job. It's not necessarily that Job sinned, because Scripture doesn't say he sinned.
Yeah.
In fact, the opposite. God says, I will have Job pray for you, the friends, because they sinned.
Yep. That's true. And just to kind of follow up on some of these comments, Seeley said someone who's terminal can be put on palliative care, which is meant to make someone comfortable until they pass. And I think that's very different than taking someone's life.
100%.
Yeah.
But it's also the right thing to do. If someone is truly suffering, you can make them comfortable until they pass.
Yeah.
But whenever you step in and you're effectively determining when they pass, that's when you've went over the line.
Right. And this is showing love to a person and having compassion. As humans, we understand, like, if again, do unto others as you would have them. Like, if I was suffering, I'd want someone to help me to be more comfortable. But ultimately, leaving my life in God's hands.
I would agree. Let me just say this for clarification. You could hit pain so bad that you may effectively one day beg your loved ones to maybe help end things. That would be a situation where we need to have wisdom. This is conversations we need to have with family and friends.
Yeah.
You know my position all my life. So if I get to a stage where I'm in real bad pain, where I'm no longer thinking clearly, do not operate off my motive of being in pain and wanting to be free of it. Because what you're doing is you're doing something that is against my actual volitional will. That is something that I have told you all my life. Don't put me to early death or whatever. But if I'm in so much pain, because I've been in deep pits of dark agony before where I've similarly said things like the prophets had, like, why am I alive? Why am I going through this? And praise the Lord, in those moments, he continues to give you life. Because then you go through those moments, you look back and you go, oh, that was an idiotic thing to say. I actually like being alive. That's the thing. We need to be we need to realize pain plays a deep part in people seeking these things. But you cannot listen to people in those moments because they are not thinking clearly. They can't think beyond their pain.
That's just being human. I mean, even Job, I think, struggled at times where he was like,
sure,
it'd be better if I was not born. Yeah. Which,
again, people kind of miss this in the West at times. That was actually a very common way of speaking in the East. They often had this worldview of you would have been better never to have been born than to go through certain circumstances. That's not it's not saying it's right. We're not saying that just because that was the worldview that it's right. But that was just Job repeating a very common phrase.
And the expression of anguish that you were talking about too, that when we're in deep anguish, we can feel that way. But that doesn't mean Job literally, he still entrusted his life to God. He didn't take his life. And even when he wanted to have an audience with God. He wanted to question God. But ultimately, when God rebuked him, he submitted. He was God honoring.
Yep, absolutely. Because that's the thing. There's many times in my life where I have thought that I've known better than God. And I don't mean that in the sense of like I legit thought I knew better than God, but there were situations in my life where I went through and I'm like, why is God doing this to me? Why is he allowing me to go through this? What a dumb thing for me to ask. Who am I to know why God is doing that? And by the way, I don't believe God caused those things. But did he allow it to happen for my good and his glory? Yeah, I believe that. I've came out of like Tim knows what I'm talking about. I've came out of a circumstance that should have wrecked me, should have just finished me off. I'm here now and I'm stronger and I'm happier and things in life are going well. Could things go bad again in the future? Of course. Human life is like that. It's experiences. That's why we can never look at an experience, no matter how deep or dark it seems, and go, you know what, just take my life.
Yep. And everybody has a unique journey that God, has set out for them. I was just thinking about I don't know if I've ever even said this. Maybe I've talked about it, but my brother-in-law, I had one brother-in-law who died, and this is my wife's two brothers. And her other brother had a very, very serious brain injury 12 years ago. And he's married. And his wife now has to, be married to someone who has a permanent brain injury. And if you looked at it the way the world does so often, it's all about my happiness, my fulfillment. Life should be about things going my way. And yet they have joy. Oh, yeah. They have joy because they know the Lord, and they don't look at things as being all about them. And it's just such an inspiration to me, to see their marriage in spite of the incredible hardship there.
And that's commendable too, because here's the thing. This is something I harp on about all the time. That is an example of people that didn't just recite something at the front of a church in front of their friends and their families and their neighbours. When you get married, you take vows. Nowadays,
for better
people
or for worse.
Exactly, and people think now though, but that's just something you recite up there. Like it doesn't actually mean that. But no, you're literally vowing not only before God, but like the congregation, the minister, everyone there. They're there as your witnesses. Whenever you say, "I will be with this person in sickness and in health, richness and in poorness," whatever else I'm forgetting, because there's a couple of them. That's not just something you recite. You're actively promising, because like Tim, what you said, accidents. Now I don't know the exact situation there, and I'm not asking you to share, but like there are certain things that can happen. I could get married tomorrow and have a motorbike crash, and my wife could be left with me permanently as a vegetable. Yep. But if she took the confession of "I will be with him in sickness and in health," she should uphold that, or vice versa. If it's her, I should uphold that. Does that mean that you're going to be happy? No. Does it mean that you're going to feel maybe a little bit burdened? Yeah, you could.
I think in the immediate, this is the way Christianity always operates. In the immediate, it's painful. In the immediate, it's worse. But in the long run, right? Like, that's what's so amazing. When you trust God, He gives grace. His 100%. Grace is sufficient.
100%. But let's even just take it though, but because unfortunately this does happen too. Let's move it and say that you're with your wife for 13 years from this point onward. She can't move, you have to bathe her, all those sorts of things. Is there a possibility that you could just be constantly, and I'm purposely using this term because we're not called to seek happiness, we're called to seek joy, but is there a chance for those 13 years, Tim, that you could be unhappy? There absolutely is.
On some level, yes, absolutely.
Yep, 100%. But what I'm saying is that let's just be real extreme and say you're unhappy on every level. But here's the thing. Your emotions don't matter. What matter? Well, I won't say they don't matter. That's a silly thing to say. But what I'm saying is your emotions do not come above your volitional will. You may not be happy, but you choose to love and obey your wife. You may not be happy, but you choose to care and honor your wife for those 13 years. That's what I mean by we really need to get out of this mindset of, well, I'm not happy here, or this isn't working for me. No, exercise your will and choose. A guy messaged me today. I don't know if he's watching. I'm not going to name his name just because of that. And he asked me this question. He said, I often feel scared. I rarely feel brave. How do I combat that? And the answer is by the choice of your will. No one walks around feeling brave. You have to choose to be brave. Because you can't be brave if there's nothing to be scared of. You remove that and replace that with anything else. I often don't feel like loving my neighbor.
Right.
Okay? Then choose to love your neighbor.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
point. It's. I think Christians sometimes think that it's just.
It's very
like an
C.S.
automatic
Lewis
thing.
of you to say that.
Oh, I'm glad you say so, because Lewis has honestly been one of my biggest influences in life.
Yeah, he's basically just act like it. Just do the thing you're supposed to do, and then the feeling will come from that.
Exactly,
Yeah.
because whenever you choose, it's like, here's the example everybody can relate to. Would we all love to sit around all day, every day, eating chocolate, fries, and burgers, and not moving? Of course. Do we want to go to the gym? No. Do you see when you get in the gym regularly, after maybe like a week or two, you start to get to a point where mentally you feel so much sharper and better that you're like, man, I love the gym. I don't want to miss my gym session.
Yeah.
That's an example of that
Yeah.
playing out in real life.
Yeah, that's true. That's where spiritual disciplines and pursuing godly habits are just so beneficial to us.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because you'll know this too, Tim. You're a pastor. I'm sure many people have probably said this to you before. It's similar to what we're already talking about. I don't know how many young people have asked the question, how do I get into, like, how can I see so many older men that say they read their Bible every day? I don't have a passion to read the Bible every day. What I often ask them is, how often do you read the Bible? Oh, I don't really, because I don't have a passion. That's your problem. You have to start by reading it. That's how you get the passion. But they have this, and I'm not saying it's intentional, but I think a lot of people operate by the understanding that the Spirit is just going to automatically give you these feelings somehow by osmosis. That's not how it works. It's not how the Christian life works. It's not even how life outside Christianity works. None of us wants to work, but do we need to work to make money, to make bills? Yeah. So why do you go and work? Everybody, because I know multiple people's like, oh, it's Monday, I don't want to get up and work. Why do you go and work? Because they're motivated to know that if I don't work, I don't get money. I don't get money, I don't eat, or I don't pay my bills. So they do it because they're motivated. Now, remove that back into Christianity. Why don't you read your Bible? Because you're not motivated. You've got no desire to go and seek the Lord. If you had that desire, if you valued wanting to know the Lord more, you would dig into the scripture. That's the point. But it doesn't come through osmosis. You have to do it daily.
Yep. And the other thing about us as humans is we're not like evenly distributed in our desires, in our physical makeup, and like we have ebbs and flows to our lives. And so like even if you're doing the right thing, there are going to be ups and downs. You know, there are going to be times where it's like, okay, I gotta keep going here, and it's not easy. And then the other times, that's why I think Pilgrim's Progress relates so well to people, because
100%.
they can relate to those aspects of the journey where it's, you know.
Think about how many times we've all experienced spiritual dryness, where we feel like we're just going through the motions.
Yeah.
Sometimes
keep going to church.
Yeah. Sometimes you are going through the motions. There's nothing necessarily wrong with going through the motions. What you're seeking in that moment is to feel closer to God. I get that. That's a very real thing. We should want that. But there are sometimes God withdraws his face from us. It's for our good. He's often drawing us in closer. God will not withdraw himself for any capricious reason. He's not doing it to punish you. He's not doing it to whatever. Now, is it always God removing his face to draw you in deeper? No, sometimes God removes his face from you because you're in sin and you need to repent. But it doesn't always mean that, though. That's the point. We can't... something I have been learning and talking about a lot over this last year is we need to find a balance in a lot of things. There's always an error on the right and there's always an error on the left. What I need to get clearer explaining to people is, because people often hear me talking about walking the middle way or the middle path, they think I'm just being like, oh, you know, just sit in the fence. It's not what I'm saying. Have an opinion, have convictions. But what I'm saying to you is, just because you look at something and you see an error. So for example, right now, I'm just going to pick someone at random. Seeley could look at me and go, man, Layman is such a he's just a Pharisee. He constantly bangs on about doing, obeying the law, all that sort of crack. She could now go to the equal and opposite error and go, you know what, I'm just going, rules don't matter. Jesus just wants me to live my life whatever way I want. That's the problem. You're reacting to my error by creating your own error. Don't do that. Walk the middle road and say, look, he is a bit of a Pharisee, but I'm going to walk that middle road of there are laws that we need to obey, but there is also freedom and grace in Christ.
I'm gonna put up that joke in a second that Tony has there, but I do want to just kind of affirm what you're saying there, that something I've always noticed about the way God created life is that it is always healthiest in equilibrium. Like, even our planet had to be placed in the perfect spot. It couldn't be too close to the sun. It couldn't be too far from the sun. And even our bodies, if all you had was a skeleton, a skeleton and its structure, you don't have life just because you have structure. But if you didn't have a skeleton, you may have skin, you may have organs, but you have no structure, and that is not conducive to life either. You have to have this equilibrium for so many things to be healthy, and I think that is exactly what you were speaking to there in our Christian life. We need to make sure we have equilibrium. It's not about sitting on the fence, by the way, because there are situations where we need to be very, very like, this is the right thing. But it is about knowing how to have a healthy, balanced outlook and approach to things. Just like to use another example, you talked about working out.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't be healthy if all you did was work out. You have to rest. That helps your body. It helps your body. But if all you do is sit around and rest, you're not going to be healthy either.
No.
Must be equilibrium.
Yeah, because then it would no longer be rest.
That's
it
true.
would be laziness. That's the thing. There's a balance. And yeah, I think a lot of men like Lewis and Chesterton, they have shaped my thinking, which I'm grateful for. But I think they were also shaped, though, but by men before them, and it ultimately goes back to the wisdom of God. So, for example, is God against calling fire and brimstone down upon a city? No, we see that with Sodom and Gomorrah, right? Now, whenever James and John are in the earthly ministry of the Messiah and they say, Lord, should we call fire down from heaven? What does Jesus say to them? Oh yeah, I did that before. That's a great idea, James and John. He rebukes them. Why?
Sons of thunder.
Yeah, because they reacted in a way that he didn't. God doesn't call fire down from heaven for no reason. Right. But James and John looked at that and go, well, our Lord's been insulted. Call fire down from heaven. Should we not call fire down from heaven? That's a very human reaction. Now, ultimately, Jesus looks at them and he's just like, and I'm paraphrasing, but he essentially says, what's wrong with you guys? Why? Because there is a middle road. There is a balance. Our Lord's not just wrath. There's only one attribute of God that is ever put to the third degree, and it's his holiness. It's not his wrath.
Another one is Peter. When Peter has the opportunity to have his feet washed, and he's like, no, I'm not going to let you. I mean, he's going to this extreme, and then Jesus says, I need to do this, and he's okay. Then wash all of me, and he's like, no, you only need your feet washed, Peter.
Yep. It's because we're so, I don't know what it is about fallen human nature, but we're prone to extremes. It's it takes a lot of work to be balanced. It really, well, I guess that logically makes sense too, because like if you think about walking a tightrope, you don't just walk across it. Like, you have to take work to balance yourself. It takes effort. It takes concentration. And it's the same with our thought life. We have to be slow to speak. Quick to listen, slow to speak. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And the reason behind that is because we are so prone to react in however we feel in that moment. We have to take our emotions captive. That's the point. Do we always do that? No, we don't. There's times where someone replies to me on X and I maybe reply like a lunatic and like, nothing outrageous, but like I reply with something that's not charitable. And then the person will be like, oh, there's no need to say that. And I'll be like, look, I'm sorry, my bad day or whatever. I'm human. I'm not excusing that. But that's the thing. There's moments where we really need to sit back and go, I'm not in the right mood to actually respond to it.
Yep. So I did throw up the comment there. I don't know if you saw that, but I've seen that before, Tony, and that always gives me a chuckle. Going painlessly in my sleep like my grandfather did, not screaming in terror like the passengers in his car. That's yes, and then there's some comments on fence sitting there. Yeah.
That particular type of fence sitting, don't be a fence sitter, but be a walk the middle of the road guy. The road is mapped out, it's paved, it's carved for you, it's safe. You don't go and walk in a ditch. Why? The ditch is perilous. It's got holes. It's got all sorts of nasty things that is thrown into it. That's why that statement came about. Like, don't go and jump in the opposite ditch. I'm not the first one that came up with that. That's been a statement. I don't know if it's got any further than Ireland, but it's a common phrase over here. It really is.
I've probably heard something like that.
I'm assuming it is a lot more popular, but it's just sometimes we do have colloquial, like phrases that you say it and people are like, wait a minute, what's that?
And it's even if someone didn't hear that would be pretty intuitive to know what you're talking about.
Yep.
There's some phrases you probably have that I would have no clue what you even mean.
Probably, but it's always one of those things. Whenever someone tells you think of your favorite movie, you're suddenly like,
you're like, I can't think of anything. It'll just naturally come sometime when you're talking. And
exactly, but it's also that thing too, though, but of like, it's not even the question if you forget your favorite movie. Movies in general disappear from your head. Someone's like, what's your favorite movie? And you're like,
what's a movie?
Exactly. It quite literally, your brain goes so blank. You're like, hang on, I know I've seen a movie, but what is a movie? It happens all
or you can only think of a really dumb movie that you don't even want to say.
It happens all the time to me on X, because I often get people commenting being like, hey, what's a good book on whatever? And I'm like, books exist?
Yeah. I know. I had that happen at we were doing an evangelism conference type of a thing, and someone asked me about a book. Like, what book would I recommend? And I just couldn't think, even though like afterward I was like, oh, of course I know which book I would recommend. But yeah, when you're put on the spot, Yep. Anyway, we should get wrapping up here soon. I know you have a live stream that's going to be coming up.
Well, I need to hop off. At most, I have like half an hour left because he's going to be joining me early to set up.
Exactly. So I think we should wrap it up here.
Do you not want to touch your video briefly?
I think we can it's okay. We'll save it for another time. But we've gone for about 2 hours here, and
yes, and then I'll probably be going for another 2.
Exactly. So we want to give you time to gear up for the next thing.
Yep.
But we also had a lot of great input today.
If you are around, Tim, actually, could you go to my X and bring this up for people? I will send you the DM now. Just give me a second.
Is it
just to show
live
people?
Stream?
Yeah, it's just to show people what is coming up.
Sure.
So if you're around and you're free in about 2 hours time, no, 1 hour's time, please do come and check this out. We will be opening up the call lines after I interview the father. So.
And again, this is oops. Where is it? Sorry, for some reason my I think I deleted my screen share. That was dumb. I'll get it in a second here. Okay. I finally got it. All right. Yes. So this is True Orthodoxy, which, as you said earlier, and in case people missed it, this is a priest. Is he a priest?
Father,
okay.
yep.
And Father Joseph. And
this is what I need to clarify with him. I'm not sure. I think it's Sweden, but I need to check.
Okay. And True Orthodoxy that's not just a generic title. Like, that's an actual thing.
Yes.
Like,
So to him, true orthodoxy is Eastern Orthodoxy. He fused Eastern, and when I say him, I'm saying him because he's coming on to talk about it. But
it's
his
the
group,
genuine thing.
yeah,
It's the
his group,
genuine,
yep, his group.
faithful orthodoxy. Yeah,
Mhm.
sorry.
No, you're all right. His group views what we would think of as Eastern Orthodoxy. They don't think that is Eastern Orthodoxy at all. So to Eastern Orthodox, this gentleman would be a heretic, but to him, they're the heretics. And to both of them, I'm the heretic. So it's probably going to be a spicy little talking session. So we'll see.
Now, where is he located?
America. I don't know where specifically, but America.
Ah, America.
Hmm.
So that's why this is rarely heard in Ireland.
Well, the reason why I say a perspective rarely heard in Ireland is Eastern Orthodoxy in general doesn't even really have a foothold in Ireland. So true Orthodoxy definitely doesn't. So a lot of things that he's going to be talking about tonight is going to be new to me because, like, I'm not an expert in Eastern Orthodoxy. I know enough, but I'm not an expert. But he disagrees with a lot of things that they say and do. So for me, this is going to be, very rarely heard. So if you want to tune in and see what we're talking about, I've got a lot of questions lined up here that I want to ask him. We're probably not going to get to all of them because, like, obviously by the time he maybe answers some of them, it could go on for a little bit.
Yeah.
He may even have questions for me. I don't know. So we'll see.
Sounds really interesting.
And if
Yeah,
you
I
can't make
I always
this will be
find it
recorded.
fascinating too. You know, when you're talking about like a group like that sees themselves as like we're the ones who really, and that just seems to happen. You see other group, like I knew about this group that people I know used to be in, and they were like little house churches, and they thought they were the only ones going to heaven. Like, you know, it's so interesting that different groups can think like they have the corner on, you know.
There is, and this is why I think me and him's going to have a good conversation because, believe it or not, me and him agree on this concept. There would be a lot of Protestants, and I'm using Protestant broadly speaking here to encompass, evangelicals and everything. There would be a lot of Protestants that would look at Roman Catholics and go, "You're not Christians. We are." So while it's not the same type of like universal, like my actual church is the thing, but we still
It's not
do it in
as
a group.
exclusive. There's an
Exactly.
right. There's an
Yeah.
exclusivity to it. I look at it more broadly, and I tend to hear more Protestants say that they think Catholics can be saved, but that it's not.
It's in spite of Rome.
It's not owing to
Yeah.
all that Catholicism teaches.
Yeah, because like your average Roman Catholic, and I know this will kick a hornet's nest, not right now, because I don't think we have anybody watching that is Roman Catholic. But what I mean is, in general, this would kick a hornet's nest. The majority of average Roman Catholics you encounter, they honestly just do have a simple faith in Jesus. And they go to mass and stuff, but like if you were to ask them about, Marian dogmas and papal bulls and what did this pope say, the majority of them would look at you and go, I don't know. So are Roman Catholics saved? Yeah. A lot of them have faith in Christ, yeah. And it's the Roman Catholic Jesus is not a false Jesus. They don't believe anything about him that's wacky or, detrimental to the biblical narrative. Compare that with the Jehovah's Witness Jesus, who is the first and highest created being of Jehovah, or the Mormon Jesus that is quite literally the offspring of Heavenly Father and Heavenly Mother. Yeah. So I get it. A lot of people think that there is errors in Rome and the East, and I would agree. But I don't think we need to be as quick to be like, oh, Roman Catholics or Eastern Orthodox are not saved. Now, I'm not saying that about anyone here. But what I'm saying is where me and Father Joseph actually agree, because like we talked briefly about this, is I actually say that while I don't agree with him, I respect the fact that he believes his convictions strong enough to tell me to my face that he doesn't think I'm a Christian. Because I've had Eastern Orthodox people before hum and high and be like, oh, well, you may be a Christian, I don't know. It's that type of thing. So
we got some contrasting opinions here. You did wake up a little hornet's nest.
Sure.
Catholics may lean towards heterodoxy in some areas, but they're my brothers and sisters in Christ. Same with Eastern Orthodox. But Leslie said, I disagree with you in that Catholicism doesn't worship the same Jesus.
Right. So Leslie knows this is coming from a place of love. She's on your channel. She's on my channel. This is not me trying to be a jerk. But I would simply ask Leslie, can you give me one thing about Jesus that they teach about him that is fundamental to the faith that we as Protestants would deny?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, and like I'm not sure what she has in mind. I feel
Yeah,
like
by the way, I'm not expecting her to rush in right away.
Catholicism, like when it comes to their, I guess you could say positive teachings. So like what they actually say about Jesus, I would say it's correct.
Yeah.
But the one caveat I would put on that, like I'll give you an example. I was talking to a Catholic years ago, and she said, if you're going to get to Jesus, you need to go through his mother. That's what she said to me.
Yeah.
You have to go through his mother. Well, that's what maybe Leslie's pointing to a little bit. It's like, instead of a Jesus who's right there to offer himself to you, you have a Jesus who's, you know.
What 100%, I agree with that, but what I'm saying is that would be a flaw in how the Roman Catholic, not just a flaw, an error in my mind. That would be an error in how they articulate it, but is that ontologically anything different about Jesus? No, it's them stating an error.
Yeah, here's what she said. It's the co-mediatrix issue.
Right, well then, okay, so Leslie, hear me out. I agree with what you just said, but that's not anything ontologically different about Jesus. So whenever I say ontologically, that means in regards to nature. So they don't teach anything about Jesus that would make him a different Jesus. They place things before him in a sense that it's error, but that's not anything ontological. So what I mean by that is, for example, say a Mormon comes along and they say, well, we also believe in Jesus. They don't. They believe in an ontologically different Jesus, not just because of what they teach about him, but they say that he is actually the offspring of Heavenly Father and Heavenly Mother. Now, that's an ontologically different Jesus, because we know that the biblical Jesus is begotten of the Father. There's no Heavenly Mother that affects his nature. So all I would say there, Leslie, is that is error on their side, but there's nothing about Jesus directly, meaning the person of Jesus, his divinity and his humanity, that's different.
I get what you're both saying, because again, what I think Layman is getting at is when you look at the doctrine they actually espouse about the person of Jesus himself.
Yes,
that's very much what we believe too, in terms
orthodox.
Of the two natures of Christ, you know, that he's God, he is man, all of that. But I hear what she's saying too, which is even if they have all that right on paper, if you're saying something about him isn't enough, and you interpose a need for a co-mediatrix, it almost undermines the very things you've said.
It does, and I agree with that. But that's not the point I was making. And
Sure.
I'm saying this.
Sure, I know.
I know you are, but I'm trying to communicate to Leslie.
I think that she gets it. I mean, she may not.
She's still saying that yes, it is.
Yeah, she's just saying we'll disagree for now. I think we'd have to have a much longer.
We do, because I actually agree with Leslie in what she's saying. All I'm meaning is there might just be a miscommunication with what I mean by ontological.
It is different than Mormons for sure,
and Jehovah's Witnesses. So
and Jehovah's Witnesses, right?
Yeah, because they're the clearest example. So if a Jehovah's Witness said to you, "Oh, we believe in the same Christ," well, they don't, because their Christ is created, which means there's something ontologically different about his nature. So that's what I mean. So while Rome may add all these extra things in, before you go to Jesus, you have to go to Mary. Those are what I would consider genuine errors that need to be rebuked and talked about. But does it actually ontologically change the nature of the Jesus they're talking about? No. That's my point.
And then Tony said, I have more issues with liberal Protestants who deny the divinity and resurrection of Christ, even in my own tradition. Looking at you.
Me and Tony are bang on. We are bang on. See, this is the thing. While me and Tony disagree in soteriology, here we are agreeing on the nature of God. This is the thing. This is why we can... These types of conversations are good. And the reason why I like clarifying at times is I don't ever want people walking away from here thinking, that I agree with everything that Rome teaches or the East teaches. I don't. I'm a magisterial Protestant. I actually very strongly disagree with them on both things. But that being said, I also have to still man their case whenever something is said about them that's not true, because it would actually come back on me as well, because then they could say to me, well, you don't believe in an Orthodox Jesus, you don't believe in the same nature of Christ. That would be a straw man.
Right. Right.
Oh.
Well, again,
Tiffany's
check out,
here a bit late. She
check
may have
out-
been watching.
check out Layman's channel in a little bit for this conversation.
Yes.
If you want some more stretching theological conversation, we'll put it that way.
It'll be tough. I'm sure it'll be tough. And look, I have got no issue with anybody coming in and asking hard questions. Neither does Father Joseph. He's very used to them. I know no one here would do it, but I don't want anyone coming in and attacking the man on a personal level. If you want to come and engage his ideas, feel free. Just don't bring any personal attacks. Saying that more for the people that may watch afterwards.
All right, we'll leave it there. And I just want to thank everybody for being with us today. And I think we're going to be at our normal time next week.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be here. I should be here. And we'll have more topics. And if we do happen to get a guest for next week, I'll try to post about that to let you all know ahead of time.
Yeah, because Lord willing, please do pray for me in this, because like this is only in the beginning stages, and like I'm already slurring my words with it. So like in a week's time, I may struggle to talk.
That's true.
So
That's
if we
true.
do have a guest, it may work out well.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it'll be Tim speaking and me going, mm-hmm.
Okay. That's when we'll make sure to bring on another Baptist, and you won't be able to say anything.
Oh no, I'll trust me. By the
Suddenly,
Lord,
he'll be able to.
by the Lord's grace and might, I will be healed.
That's funny. All righty. Thank you, everybody.
Yep,
We'll see
appreciate
you,
you all as well. Thank you for your comments and your pushbacks. Love you all.
Goodbye.